Let's do our CougarBoard question of the week, and we'll dive into this football game. Stone Cushing's going to join us in just a little bit. If you're not familiar with CougarBoard, it's the largest online community of BYU fans with thousands of posts every day. This question comes from Dilbert, one of their insider subscribers. Red zone offense has been a strength for BYU early in the season, but seems to have stalled a bit the last couple of games. Why did BYU struggle to get touchdowns in the red zone against Kansas? This is a popular comment on the live stream tonight. What do you think?
Yeah, well, it's interesting because the further you get into the season, the more film people have on you in what you do down in the red zone. So you almost need to kind of reinvent yourself on a weekly basis, unless you're so physical when you get down to the red zone. I'll take you back to a BYU team that seemed like they were really good in the red zone to me.
Okay.
Taysom Hill at quarterback, Jamal Williams at running back. You could almost just line up and say, hey, you know what? Now that we're on the 9, we're going to run it. Now we're not going to tell you whether we're going to give it to Jamal or we're going to fake to Jamal and Taysom's going to keep it. But you can't stop it. And they couldn't. Because even if you didn't block somebody, Taysom or Jamal would run over the top of them, run around them, and score. When you have that, you can kind of do the same thing all season long, and people have struggle stopping you. Or if you're just so physical up front that you can run it downhill in the red zone, you just do the same thing all season long. There's so much parity in this league, and BYU, hey, these young backs, I like these young backs,
yeah.
But these young backs aren't Tyler Algier or Jamal Williams yet, right? I don't know if they'll ever be Tyler Algier. I mean, we're talking about a 1,000-yard rusher as a rookie in the NFL and the league's leading scorer last year. And then Taysom Hill's the biggest freak in the NFL. So are these guys going to turn into those guys? Probably not, right? And so teams start to look at what you're doing when you get down there, and they start to have a scout, and they go, hey, 60% of the time they do this, 70% of the time they do this. If they're in this formation, they do that. So it's almost like you got to reinvent yourself every week. You have to have a few wrinkles down there that allow you to run a rub route or to do something misdirection or do something differently that allows you to get some big plays down in the red zone, because it's really difficult. Everybody asks me, why does BYU move the ball so easily in midfield and then they get down inside the 20 and they just seem like they can't complete a ball? Remember, when you're on your own 45-yard line, safeties are going to line up at 12, 14 yards, and their first movement is going to be to backpedal. You run a play-action pass and the linebacker step toward the line of scrimmage. There might be a 15-yard gap between the top side of the linebackers and in front of the safeties that you can throw the ball in. When you get down on the 10-yard line, the safeties put their feet on the goal line and they don't even backpedal.
No.
So there's no intermediate routes. You have to beat people one-on-one. They'll take an extra person out of coverage and put them on the line of scrimmage and put them in the box to try to keep you from running the ball. It's hard to score touchdowns in the red zone, so you have to be unbelievably creative in how you approach it. You have to use motion. You have to use shifts and different things to get them off balance and get him looking in other places so that you can fool them when you get down there. And BYU did a good job of that. They didn't do such a great job this last week. Jake, I'm not going to give him excuses. I'm just going to simply say this. He wasn't 100% healthy this last week. Cost him early in the week in terms of practices, inability to move really well. I don't think they ran him that much last week because he got really beat up in the Utah game. I think he didn't get hurt any more in the Kansas game, so I think Jake's going to be himself again this week. Yeah, his legs took a beating in the Utah game, folks, and nobody's really talked about it because Kalani doesn't make excuses, A-Rod doesn't make excuses, and Jake doesn't make excuses. But I'm going to tell you right now, his legs were beat up going into that game and all week in practice. And he also had an index finger on his throwing hand that was hurt last week.
Well, let's hope he's better this week.
Yeah. And that'll help with the touch passes and all those kinds of things. And I think when you involve Jake in the run game on the goal line, that helps.
Yeah.
So I'm not making an excuse. I think they've got to be more creative, and Scott Phillips said that. They got to come with a new package, that some things that Arizona State hasn't seen when they get down there to catch them off guard. But I also think a completely healthy Jake, which I think he will be this week, will help in the red zone as well.
Thank you for watching The Wise Guy.
If you like what you're watching, you can help us out by subscribing and hitting that notification button.